Many view emotions as a vulnerability, something to hide or express freely in hopes of connection. But Niccolò Machiavelli saw emotions differently, not as a weakness to suppress or a truth to reveal, but as a calculated instrument of power. While most people are swept up by their feelings, he wielded his own and others' emotions like a master strategist, orchestrating reactions with precision. He wasn't devoid of feeling. He was a tactician of sentiment. This overlooked strategy wasn't about cold manipulation, but about using warmth, openness, and intensity to shape outcomes, build loyalty, and dismantle resistance. A man who seems genuine, who shows just enough vulnerability, can disarm, persuade, and dominate in ways that brute force cannot. This isn't speculation, it's evident in Machiavelli's actions and writings. Let's explore how he turned emotion into a weapon. In his correspondence, such as his letter to Lorenzo de' Medici, Machiavelli didn't begin with bold claims or threats. Instead, he adopted a tone of modesty, presenting himself as a humble advisor offering insight despite his lowly status. Why? Because lowering himself disarmed his audience, slipping past their defenses. Power isn't always won through dominance. Sometimes it's gained by appearing unthreatening. This is the essence of his emotional strategy. Display feeling strategically, reveal just enough to gain trust, and use every emotion as a tool to shape perceptions. Let's see how this played out, not just in theory, but in real human interactions. Machiavelli worked under Cesare Borgia, a cunning and ruthless leader. Rather than competing with Borgia's intellect or ambition, Machiavelli aligned himself emotionally. He mirrored Borgia's drive, flattered his brilliance, and praised his deceptive tactics, not out of fear, but as a deliberate move to get close. By appearing loyal and emotionally transparent, "I see your vision, I respect it," he became invisible as a threat. This is a key principle. People lower their guard when you reflect their emotional state. Match their anger with concern, their excitement with admiration, or their anxiety with empathy, and they feel understood, not manipulated. This creates an opening for influence, not through control, but through connection. In diplomatic missions, Machiavelli didn't rely on Florence's might. Instead, he studied the emotional undercurrents of every leader he met, their pride, their insecurities, their reactions to subtle slights. He tailored his words, pauses, and expressions to provoke specific responses, mapping their emotional triggers before making his moves. Knowing what someone wants to feel gives you the power to steer them. This leads to the next layer of his approach, controlling your emotional display to shape others' reality. If you show hesitation, they feel urgency. If you appear calm, they feel unsteady. If you shift emotions unexpectedly, you create confusion, and in that confusion, you gain control. People gravitate toward the most emotionally stable figure in the room, even if that stability is a facade. This is what Machiavelli meant by mastering fortune, not luck, but the ability to shape how others perceive and react to reality. Machiavelli took this further by weaponizing others' emotions. He'd subtly criticize a sensitive council member to spark doubt, praise a rival to breed overconfidence, or raise hopes in negotiations only to pull back, leaving others scrambling for clarity. Emotions don't just reveal people, they drive them. By feeding their pride, fear, or anger, he could guide their actions without force. This is emotional manipulation at its most subtle. People think you're empathetic, not strategic. They say, "He gets me," or "She knows how to connect," unaware that their reactions are being orchestrated. This wasn't about charm in the modern sense. Machiavelli didn't win through charisma, but through precision, reading emotions like a tactician reads a battlefield. He knew that understanding how someone wants to feel gives you power over them. You don't dominate by shouting loudest. You control the emotional undercurrent while remaining unseen. In today's world, where emotional honesty is celebrated, this tactic is even more potent. People who share their feelings openly hand over a map of their desires and weaknesses. But a strategist like Machiavelli reveals only what serves the moment, pulling strings while appearing to give. Imagine a modern leader in a high-stakes negotiation. The other side is formal, rigid, focused on data. Most would match that tone, assuming logic will prevail. Machiavelli would do the opposite. He'd shift the emotional dynamic, lowering his voice, sharing a personal anecdote about struggle or ambition, just vulnerable enough to change the room's atmosphere. By showing humanity, he'd force others to adjust, either by softening or doubling down. Either way, he's disrupted their focus, making them navigate emotions instead of facts. This creates what he called asymmetry, a state where opponents lose their footing because you've entered through an unguarded angle. Another tactic was strategic silence. After a moment of openness, Machiavelli would withdraw, letting others sit in discomfort. People rush to fill emotional voids, offering sympathy or concessions to regain connection. This is how emotions do the work for you, not through theatrics, but through careful timing. In power dynamics, different people value different feelings. A warrior prizes courage, a diplomat craves respect, a leader seeks legacy. Machiavelli didn't impose his emotions. He reflected theirs, framing their world in his terms. In The Prince, he writes that a leader who clings to goodness will fail among those who aren't good. This isn't just advice, it's a challenge, stirring discomfort to push the reader toward pragmatism. He used emotional tension to make people question themselves, paving the way for his ideas. Machiavelli's genius went beyond one-on-one manipulation. He shaped entire environments, creating emotional climates where people acted in his favor without direct intervention. He studied how fear, loyalty, or uncertainty could be embedded in systems, courts, councils, or alliances. By making approval scarce or loyalty uncertain, he ensured people regulated themselves, chasing emotional validation. Cesare Borgia's court, which Machiavelli admired, thrived on this. Borgia didn't just rule through fear. He created an atmosphere where no one knew where they stood, driving them to prove their devotion. This is the ultimate form of control, a system where people obey not because of rules, but because of feelings. Today, we see this in workplaces where vague feedback keeps employees guessing, or social circles where attention is a prize. Emotional scarcity breeds dependency. Machiavelli knew that the most loyal followers aren't those coerced by force, but those chasing a fleeting sense of being valued. By controlling when and how others feel seen, you hold power without lifting a finger. His lesson is clear. Don't overpower, outmaneuver. Don't argue, outfeel. By staying just out of reach, you make others loyal not to you, but to the feeling of wanting you. That's the invisible string of influence, and once tied, it's nearly impossible to break.